Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chair Yellen, for being here this morning. Good to see you again. Thank you for your accessibility as well. We've had a number of conversations. We're not always on the same page, but your accessibility is much appreciated. I know the last time we chatted, we talked a lot about the unwinding of the Fed portfolio, which I think today is about $4.5 trillion or so. I think at the beginning of the crisis, it was under $1 trillion. Can you just talk for a few minutes on the timing of the unwinding, and if you have a target number at the end, when would you see us getting there? I think my question is germane to the impact that your objective will have on South Carolinians who are looking for ways to improve their quality of life, and that coupled with the interest rate environment may have a negative impact on first-time home buyers as well as those retirees that have much, if not all, of their money in the market. So your comments I would like to apply to those two specific groups as you discuss this for a few minutes.
Okay, so let me see if I can be responsive to that. Our intention is to shrink our balance sheet and the quantity of reserves in the banking system in a slow, gradual, predictable way. And we've set out a concrete and detailed plan for how to do that. And it involves reducing the extent to which we reinvest principal payments that we receive on our holdings of Treasury and mortgage-backed securities. So when we set the plan into effect, we will set caps on the amount of reinvestment that we allow to occur. The caps will gradually rise over time, and our balance sheet will gradually run off as a consequence of reduced reinvestment. We want to make sure that we manage this in a way that is not disruptive to financial markets, and in part for that reason, we have tried to set out increasingly clearly and in great detail how we intend to proceed. So once we trigger this process, expect it to run in the background, not something that we'll be talking about a lot from meeting to meeting. It will be a predictable process. Now, we think that our purchases of assets did have some positive effect in depressing longer-term interest rates. And so over many years, as our balance sheet shrinks, we would expect to see some increase in longer-term interest rates relative to short-term interest rates. But, of course, we will take that into effect, namely a steepening of the yield curve in how we set the federal funds rate, which is now, and I hope will remain, our primary tool for adjusting the stance of monetary policy. And we will set that, as always, with a view toward trying to achieve maximum employment and price stability. Now, finally, you mentioned that our balance sheet was around $1 trillion prior to the crisis, and that's true. But it's important to recognize that although our balance sheet will shrink appreciably during this process, as will the quantity of reserves, I have no expectation of going back to a balance sheet that small. One of the factors influencing the size of our balance sheet— I have
about a minute left, so I hate to cut you off. I want to go to insurance.
Okay.
But let me just say this, that as we talked about the depressing of interest rates, which can be very positive for first-time home buyers, is very negative for those retirees who are depending on the return on their investments to produce their livable income, so to speak. On the insurance side, we talked as well on the importance of having insurance expertise on the FSOC. And as we have all mentioned, I think Mr. Woodall's term expires September 21st or thereabout. Today, the way that we have it structured, we could be absent of any insurance expertise on the FSOC. Would you support legislation I know that you don't necessarily get involved in politics, but would you support legislation that would head in the direction of making sure that the insurance expertise stays on the FSOC?
So I do think it's important for FSOC to have insurance expertise, and exactly how you go about accomplishing that, I don't have his specific
Yes.
recommendation, but
Thank you, ma'am. My time is about up. I do want to encourage our Chairman Crapo and Ranking Member Brown to continue their work on making sure that the FSOC has that continuous insurance representation.
Senator Warner.
Thank you, Mr.